Recording in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. This is Dean with the Two Party Podcast. I'm here with Jessica Koch, like Scotch. I had to remember that. So she's here joining us today. Now, she is a sales professional with 25 years experience. And if I've done my due diligence, stalking you with my wonderful skills, you've worked with Fortune 1000 companies like Disney, Verizon, multiple different utility type companies. You have a book that's either out or coming out. I'm not sure. Coming out. Okay. And that's Profiles in Success, Inspiration for Executive Leaders. She is a mother, and we'll dive more into that later. But right now, Jessica, welcome to the show. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and your story.
So I was a Navy brat and got to travel quite a bit throughout the United States. And I do have these 7 amazing kids. We have 6 adults and 1 peanut still. She's 9. So she's the youngest. And we had kind of one last hurrah, if you would. I'm having a birthday soon. I'm going to be 48 and fabulous. I'm 47, a few more days, and I'll be 48 and fabulous.
I'll be 45 next month. So I'm right there with you.
Fabulous.
And fabulous. We just, I wish I was as wise when I was younger, but at the same time, I'm like, I wish I had my younger body.
Well, we can always go back and get the younger body. That's the good news. I saw on America's Got Talent this woman. She was 75 years old, and she had a bikini bodybuilder body. I'm like, so pretty much if we want to put in the 8 hours a day, that is required to make those muscles fight gravity and time.
Yeah. I see people, my son, he competes jujitsu and he trains jujitsu, and then we just started him doing judo and stuff. So I'm obviously in and out of gyms all the time with different stuff. And then, I am an avid fitness person these days. Past 3 years, I've kind of taken that journey on. So I've been kind of hitting the gym myself, but it's crazy growing up, it was always the younger guys in the gym and stuff that I noticed and saw. And then now you look now, like you just mentioned, and there is some senior people in the gym. And I'm not going to lie, they scare me. I'm looking over at a weight rack and I'm watching some 70-year-old guy lift weights that even the 20 and 30-year-old guys can't do. And it's just amazing. It's cool to see that, but at the same time, I'm thinking that's got to hurt, at the end of the day, that's got to hurt, I hope to be that strong and healthy, but it's like, man, you watch him and you're like, ow, that's just painful. That's just painful.
But he's not having any trouble climbing a set of stairs.
There you go. There you go.
There are some people who have a hard time getting across the grocery store at that age. So I think it's all about our choices. And
it's inspirational for sure. It's one of those things. And we talk a lot on the show about, fitness. We talk a lot about self-help. We talk a lot about mental and physical, spiritual health, just keeping yourself grounded and balanced all in all. And so I talk a lot about that. And I've experienced a lot of ups and downs in my life. So we discuss a lot of mental health. We discuss a lot of suicide prevention and things like that. So it's good to see people being healthy and trying, because for me, the journey with fitness kind of for me turned into, it is my counseling. It is my release. It is my place where I can go and work out what's going on in my world. And so for me, it is my, for lack of a better term, it's my antidepressant.
And we totally need that, I think, stronger than ever before, because, I'm a bit of a cynic. So I really got sick of hearing, oh, you got to get your why. You got to find your why.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a talk called So You Lassoed Your Why, Now What? Action Steps to Get Shit Done, because I just felt like everyone was out there searching for themselves and finding themselves and their why. And then all this, mindsets and all of that, just heard so much about mindset. And then I'm running into some things in my own life and my own goals and my own business. And I'm like, damn, that's that damn why mindset crap again. That's right. That's totally on point and desperately needed. So, On one side, I'm a big action taker. I'm a big,
Mm-hmm.
what's the checklist? What do we need to do? Let's stop
Yeah.
whining about it, meditating about it, and focusing on it and get it done. But really, I have learned and I, of course, had to learn the hard way because it's who I am, that,
That's me too. I'm
that
very hard-headed.
we need to anchor on to those things, and those people out there shouting that message, even though, sometimes they shout it to death, or it's like
Mm-hmm.
when they play a good song on the radio and they just wear that damn song out to
Yep.
where you were like, okay, it was a good song until you ruined it.
Yeah. Until every time I hop in my car, it's on the
I know, that's
radio.
all I ever hear.
Yep.
But excuse me. And I think a little bit that's what happened for me with the why and the mindset thing. And I find myself at a new year. It always happens. And my birthday approaches. So, because
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be how that works for me, right? Since I was born
Yeah.
in January,
Right.
and I have the double whammy of the, oh my God, another birthday. Oh my God, another year. So
Yep.
the
Yep.
rest of
Mine's
y'all can consider yourself lucky if it's not in January, because
uh-huh.
it's a bit of a double whammy when it
Yeah.
is.
I just miss it because I'm in February. Like February 11th, I'm in. And then it's like, oh, the new year
Yeah,
just
and
hit, and now my
you
birthday, and the rest of the year it's over.
well, and then you find yourself, okay, what is it that I really want? Are the
Mm-hmm.
things that I'm doing in line with that? But I guess we're all going to do that no matter what, at some
Yeah.
point in your life and your cycle. So I have been in sales and marketing for a long time. I've worked with government entities. I've worked with large corporation. I have clients in 6 countries now. The book you mentioned is out. I'm a chapter in that book.
Okay.
Was featured and nominated, and working on another in the works. So we won't
Very
announce it
cool.
yet, but
Yeah.
you know,
Very cool.
if people follow me, they'll find out.
Yep.
um, I really love the power of marketing, because really it's the power of communication, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it's a power of global communication excites
Yes.
me. So I do a lot of sales and marketing, LinkedIn and social media training. And that excites me too, because if we use and leverage social media for the power of good, and things like podcasts and broadcasts, and I started my career in sales and radio advertising sales. And, if we leverage these communication tools,
Mm-hmm.
and then are able to inspire and encourage and share innovative and spark new and innovative ideas with, just by sharing what we're doing now and what is working now, that can have that be put into place in a community on the other side of the planet that really needs that system, process,
Yeah.
research, technology, whatever, or even can spark an idea that would work for them, that's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit different than it's being done somewhere else. So that's the part that fascinates and excites me and really inspires my life mission and vision, in line with my business as a consultant for these things, because I get to work with amazing people who have innovative, interesting ideas and solutions and goals, and I get to help them basically smack a microphone on it, right?
Right.
Or a megaphone, so that we can amplify it
Mm-hmm.
across the globe in this.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, and I mean a great visual. I mean, it literally is marketing, like you said. It is basically the communication of the world. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, it's to be able to, and I love the fact that I'm able to reach around the world. We're heard, and what was
Yeah.
weird is when we first started out, the first biggest places we hit were India, of all places,
Mhm.
Australia, and we started getting these huge bases, and we got a few in Hong Kong, but then like Philippines and stuff. So we started getting these huge numbers of audience coming in, and a lot of emails coming in from these areas. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. But it's like you said, it is the communication. It's taking something that for me is I'm passionate about. I really want to bring and present guests like you and different guests to our audience. But I also use the platform to encourage, with the mental health, and just kind of encourage people to lift others up and help others succeed. And that's the goal of the platform for me. But it's interesting where I get these emails back from people from around the world, and it's like, how did me? I'm sitting here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I don't know why. I still haven't figured out how I got here. But here I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the middle of the United States, and someone in the Philippines is emailing me saying they love the show, they love the guest I just had, and that they love the discussion we had. And for me, it's like that's what it's all about, is reaching one person or touching one person. But the communication, is amazing. It's just amazing that some guy in the Philippines heard the show and was touched by one of the guest comments, and then they give us the feedback. And I really love that.
I love that you're talking about the Philippines, because that's my second love. As part of one of my programs is a virtual assistant membership program. And I have built this amazing team and have been a part of many different families' lives from an impact standpoint. And they've impacted me probably more so as I've trained them, I manage them, and I assign them to my clients, and they give support to get a lot of the sales actions and social media done. And they're kind and hardworking and brilliant. And
it is a beautiful, I never realized till I did a little research, it is beautiful there. They have places in the Philippines that is absolutely phenomenally beautiful.
Well, and it's a beautiful culture. And
yes.
and mindset. They really care about what they're doing. And I love that. And I love that that's become a part of my company too. So it's interesting that you started talking about them.
It's odd, and we have bases. I was looking at some of the different places that you've been just growing up, being with the being a military brat, and I was looking at some of the places: Germany, France, Bavaria, Prague. Now we do have a little bit of a following in Germany, very little in France, but Bavaria and Prague, and then those are places too that we've got emails back from, and I thought that was really interesting.
Really cool.
It's good to know that the markets you're reaching are markets that are hopefully our audience is listening today, or will catch this episode in the future. But another thing that you just mentioned that is very important to me is the social media aspect, and we know, like, in today's crazy climate, whether it be political or whether it just be our world in general, what I love about the social media is if you go to my I'm just like you, I use it literally for promotion and marketing. If you go to my personal profile on Facebook, you will see nothing but music, and you will see nothing but encouraging posts and uplifting posts. I post nothing political. I post nothing at all that is controversial. And even though I do the show and I do talk about things like that, I just don't want that. I don't live that. That's just not. I'm a journalist. I got my press stuff's right here. I mean, I'm a journalist and freelance a lot of stuff. But I at the end of the day, that's the part of me that has to be involved in it, and I can't stand it, because I get just tired. It's very tiresome to have to deal with all the issues that are going on in the world and try to filter through the truth and all the nonsense. And so with my social media, like my personal page, I don't do any of that. I don't post anything related to that stuff. What I post on there is usually music, which keeps me motivated. I love music. And then I'll post a lot of uplifting and encouraging things, because to me, that's what I want to push off. I want people to know that part of me. I don't want them to know the work side of me. I don't want them to know all the time Dean's just caught up in this, again, political climate that we live in and stuff like that. Because while we discuss that stuff on lives on the show and stuff and do news breakdowns, like, that's just not who I am, at the end of the day. For me, it is about, like you said, reaching people and the excitement of working with teams around the world. I get calls from PR, I get calls from different sponsors we get from around the world, and I love it. It's like, for me, that's the exciting part. Like, hey, we have one of the sponsors calling in, they want to talk to you, and I'll throw the headphones off to go talk to them, because I get excited that that's a really cool thing for me to be able to reach out to. And a lot of them we find through social media. I just now started trying a little more with the Two Party Podcast platform. I started working a little more, trying to push on LinkedIn a little bit through my personal, but also just kind of doing posts and stuff. And I find social media to be very interesting, because I'm actually, as long as I've been on it, I'm still trying to learn it, as far as like learn the algorithms, learn what works best for marketing. The paid advertising is kind of set up how it is, and but at the end of the day, there's so much organic marketing that we can do.
Oh, for sure.
That'll not only save companies money, save us money, but it's so easy to do.
Well, and I think the most powerful piece to add to our threads is edifying and featuring each other, right? So if you went to my thread, you would find so much about so many other people, because I'm constantly promoting the other circles of influence that I care about and respect and admire, and so
Yeah, I think the cross-platforming is huge when you're able to utilize who you're working with and both be promoting each other and lifting up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
YouTube's another one that I literally I've had like a personal YouTube I've never even used for years since YouTube's been around. And then we started one for the show.
How many podcasts do you have so far?
We are literally on our second season. We are in episode 6. You will end up being episode 63 in our second season.
Wow.
And so that's pretty exciting and it's pretty huge, but I just reached a point where I am and my team's just getting stuff uploaded. Like our show's like an infant. We started in September, like the beginning of September. So we're very new, but everybody and their brother wants to be on. And it's, I don't know what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. A lot of people are like, you're just a good host. You have good conversation. You're very intelligent and quick-witted. And I great pat on the back. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not sure what I'm doing, as far as the marketing side of it, that's making it so amazing. But I get people all over. Today, right after your interview, I have another interview with one of the TV producers and hosts that works a lot with Tyler Perry. So we're going to be breaking into working with some producers and directors right away this year. Like this year is going to be really cool for the show because we have lined up a lot of actors and actresses, and I've got actually one of the good Comedy Central comedians is coming on next month. So we've got a lot of cool stuff going on, but I don't know how I'm doing it. At the end of the day, I'm like, how did these people even find out about me? But the word spreads. People become a guest on the show and they know someone. They're like, dude, I had a great time on the show. You need to be there. They're doing great things. And so we were lucky since September to now to really just, I think the show kind of promoted itself. We just kind of took off. I started doing the YouTube thing and I see you're on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I am very bad at keeping up with the YouTube stuff, but I have been putting I do all our video, like we'll do our live, this interview will go onto our YouTube. And what we do is we'll promote the video onto YouTube first. And, we got like 28 subscribers and people are like, you got to up your subscribers. Out of 28 subscribers, I look at it like, those are some of our faithfuls over there. But then you go over to like posts, we do live feeds and stuff. I'll get 34,000 people on a live feed when I'm doing like a news breakdown. And I'm like, I don't understand the dynamic of it, but I do kind of get it. And then a lot of people are like, I saw your YouTube. A lot of people that are like not subscribed, they're like, hey, I don't subscribe to your channel, but I saw your YouTube. And I'm like, well, apparently that's doing something. I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something.
Right.
So those are the things like the marketing. I'm just not a marketing guru. My team, I've got a guy that he's good at it, but he admits he's not the best at it. And so he kind of helps do a little bit of a lot of the tags and keyword and getting us in the searches and stuff. But to be honest, like I am no good at it. I'm really not. I'm good at this. I'm good at being a host. I'm good at chatting with people and hanging out with people. That's where I'm limited. Marketing's not something I've ever been really good at.
One of the really simple things you can do to tie it's nice when you can weave your content together. And one of the really simple ways to do that is to create an article on LinkedIn for all your shows and then put that YouTube video link into that article. And then you're still driving them to your podcast, to your website, but also to your YouTube channel. And that article is a living micro web page. And so it's kind of the person with the most web pages wins this whole organic search game, right? And that's a micro web page that can be the link itself, as any web page can be emailed or text messaged or LinkedIn message or Facebook message, but it also can be pushed. When you build an article inside LinkedIn with a click of a button, you can push that to Twitter and Facebook. So, now you've taken this podcast that you've done. They've already went ahead and put it on a YouTube video. So it's on your podcast, it's on your website, it's on your YouTube, it's on your LinkedIn, it's on your Twitter, it's on your Facebook, all because you pulled it together in a format that could be easily pushed that way. And you're talking about a lot of copy and paste. I mean, you copy and paste the bio of the guest, you put, you give it a title, you already have probably the headshot of the guest, you have, and the show has a name already, you're dropping the link in there. And if you create what I teach my clients to do is an end of article signature line, just like you have one in your email, then you're copy and paste and dropping that in. And it's Please like, share, and comment. Thank you for taking the time and, to check out our
Right.
podcast. If you need help with yada, yada, reach out to us. Here's our website, and it's just all of the same kind of goodbye, farewell, thank you at
But
the
it's
end.
also little reminders for the people reading it.
And there's also keywords in there too. So,
Mm-hmm.
So, because you're always, whenever you build anything, this is something else I tell people when I teach, is you're building, whenever you're communicating in the virtual world and online or on a platform, anywhere on in the world of the internet, you're always talking to more than one audience. You're talking to the person that you're trying to speak to, right?
Yep.
You're also talking to Google. And in some cases, you're talking to the platform as well, right?
Right.
Because what happens is when you do this engagement and you stay frequent, then you're telling that platform, hey, I'm here, I'm paying attention, I'm participating, and I'm using your tool. And so then sometimes you get gifted access to new beta things and things that come out when they roll out, because you are raising your hand that way, because they're listening too.
Right.
And then Google's tied into all of that. As well, and all the search engines.
Yeah.
They're obviously the most popular search engine, but they're listening too. And then of course you're writing it for the human that is going to be finding you and discovering you and reading and watching your pieces. So you have to keep that in mind with everything you build, the different people listening.
Right. Yeah, because you're really, like you said, I mean, you're reaching the platform, you're reaching the search engine, and then at the same time, you're trying to reach the person that you're targeting, as well as you want it to be something that's going to reach the new people. You want to be bringing in new client or new people through that marketing. What are some of the things, just some tips you can give to some of the audience, as far as, like, let's say we have some audience members that are just maybe starting new businesses and they're trying to, kind of like me, they're just, I've owned a million businesses. I've just never done the marketing personally. And so I've always handed that off. And then with the podcast, I've kind of been trying to be more organic and doing a lot of it myself, even though I'm horrible at it. But what's maybe some key tips you would give that you give maybe in some of the speaking stuff you do and consulting, maybe that you could give to our audience, just some quick tips that would help them maybe lift a business off the ground, or maybe promote a small business that's struggling right now with everything we've had in the past year.
Well, really finding something that's consistent for you. So like I have a once a month for my clients, I do a class. It's the first Monday of every month. I always do it like clockwork, like they always know it's coming. So when do your podcasts release?
I've been trying to do once a week. We've actually got a nice little backlog of release schedules for interviews. So we're trying to do like one a week, but we're also trying to do a few highlights as well. So we're trying to do, like, every once in a while we'll get some bonus episodes that we just kind of throw in. But once a week's what we're targeting.
Followers know that every Tuesday at 6 or every Tuesday at noon or every Tuesday at whatever the day and the time is, if they know like clockwork, they can count on something popping up from you. And getting that notification and having that be an event that's regular. That's one of the most powerful things any business can do, whether you're a solopreneur, a speaker, author, coach, or if you have a brick and mortar, whatever, even if you were the local plumber and every Tuesday, I knew you were going to go live on your Facebook and give me the latest plumbing advice. You begin to build a following. And whenever someone thinks about a plumbing need arises, you're going to be the first one they think of. So it doesn't matter if you're an old school business or a new, innovative network marketer and online business, right? If you can do something consistent and your following begins to rely and count on that, that is huge. The second step is to not just market that event in Facebook and LinkedIn events, right? Or in Eventbrite events. If you keep it to those three, then you're constantly hounding your same current audiences. These are the people already watching you.
Yeah. You got to branch out.
So there are about, my team and I have built, and for the clients that we do work for, we have built a list, and I think it's up to 25 different places you can register your event for free. So if you have
Very
that
cool.
consistent event coming every Tuesday, you can go to all these other platforms that are search engines specific for events
Right.
that'll be reaching new eyeballs and audiences that aren't following you on Facebook yet, or on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, or on your YouTube channel, because they don't know about you yet. You're going to be found there. So you
Nice.
have to go out to places. So things like that, as well as things like new virtual networking circles, are going to be the most powerful thing to bring in new followers. And that's one of the most challenging pieces of the puzzle for most people. So
Yeah, I mean I mean that just right there is just a lot of information for me to think about. And what is some other things like? Obviously, we've gone through 2020 was just kind of, it shouldn't be spoken of. It's been a hard year for business. I mean, at the end of the day, it's been a rough year. No matter who you are and what level of, whether you're successful business that made it through, or you're a business that just is struggling. What are some tips you can give for just helping, maybe just helping people market just enough to stay in the niche, just enough to stay, you can't really sustain any business without them actually putting in the work. But at the end of the day, maybe some advice that would help with a business that maybe has suffered, their numbers have gone down because of the pandemic or because of losing sales. What is something where maybe they can try a different angle of sales to kind of branch out and reach up?
well, so what we were talking about a second ago was more marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Sales are more immediate results. So that
Yeah.
marketing and that long-term pipeline you have to have, because that is the dance partner of sales.
Yeah.
But sales is more immediate income and revenue stream. And the number one thing that most businesses make a mistake with, even if they're thinking, oh, I'm business to consumer, or I'm a small business entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
or again, doesn't matter whether you're that plumber or you're that author, speaker, coach, or selling an online course, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The number one mistake that everyone is making is not having a specific researched targeted prospect list. You should have an Excel sheet, preferably a CRM, but start with, even if you just have an Excel sheet of 100 to 300 businesses, and the decision makers at those businesses, and all of the details of who you want working with you, because you
Right.
know you can serve them, right? And the
So
other,
kind of a targeted list of
an exact
who's your
targeted,
reliable sales, who you can work with, and there's work there or
yeah,
sales there.
right. So if
Okay.
you know that you work really well with IT companies, like as a consultant, or even if you just know that because you already have a reference in an area, or with an industry, like
Mm-hmm.
you've had success with a client in a certain industry. I'm going to use hospitals as an example. I know it's a big one for some people, but I worked with a hospital and in sales, and when I had the success with them, I had them write a written letter of reference on hospital letterhead, and then I
Mm-hmm.
approached the team that I was working with there to say, how do I work with other hospitals throughout the country because
Right.
of the great stuff we've done with you? And they hooked me in to speak at associations and present and look at their learn about their buying groups, and gave me introductions. And so then I began working with hospitals all across
Mm-hmm.
the country. Well, a hospital is also an anchor business in that region, right?
Right.
So then I used that same letter of reference, and I anchored and farmed the major employers in that area, leveraging the fact that I had worked with the local
Yeah.
hospital,
Yeah.
right? So I leveraged that relationship two ways. And I had to do the research, though, to find out those major employers in their
Mm-hmm.
area. And so there are databases and tools that are free and available to you. They're actually really expensive. They're not free, but they're
I was
paid
gonna
for.
say I know some of them probably aren't.
They're paid for by your tax dollars in the library system. So you
Yeah.
can access several really high level, high filter databases to create this research, if you know where to look. And
Right.
in the United States, the three main tools used or purchased by the library systems for
Mm-hmm.
databases are A to Z databases, which is the best one,
Yeah.
Reference USA, and Hoover's, and they have hundreds of filters in them. And one of the things you want to be filtering when you're searching for these businesses that you want to work with is their annual revenue. So if
Right.
you have a $25,000 video production package that you're trying to sell to a small
Mm-hmm.
business, that small business needs to be making between 5 and 10 million at
Yeah.
minimum in order to invest in a $25,000 video package if that's what
Mm-hmm.
you're selling, right? So
Yeah.
this
For
is
them to even have the money to invest.
for
Right.
them to even think about wanting to use your service. So you're doing yourself and the businesses you're
You're
talking
kind
to.
of saving yourself a lot of time by doing this research, even though you're doing
Yes,
the work. I mean, it's saving you a lot of
a
time.
ton of time
I
because
picture a lot of people that still do the door knocking, the ones that you see the
yeah,
no soliciting, and then you still got the guys
yeah.
that come in and they're soliciting when I'll be sitting in a waiting room and someone comes in and they're, hey, we're with so and so. And the people are like, we're good. It's like you're saving yourself a lot of foot time and a lot of
Mhm.
door to door time by doing what you're saying.
Well, because the fascinating thing is there are tons of businesses who want a well-produced corporate video
Mm-hmm.
for themselves, and they're your fans and your window shoppers, and you may think they're your customer because they're interested, but
Yep.
they don't have the resources to back that interest,
Yeah.
right?
So you want to
So
target people that are generating money. They're
that
obviously
need
doing well.
you, that you have
Yeah.
success in that industry or in that niche, and can afford you. So
Yeah.
you need to have the recipe of all those things
Yeah.
in your sales process for you to have much quicker success. And then the other key is learning to present to the different personality types that exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because from a buying standpoint, I just got another certification last year for a system called Bank. And there's lots of there's DISC and there's all these
Mm-hmm.
personality things, but this one's really focused on what moves people to action from a buying standpoint. What are the
Right.
values connected to them on how they make a decision to make a purchase? And for that, it's truly fascinating because people think, oh, it's, sales is a numbers game, but it isn't. It's a people game. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
can pay attention and pick up the cues of the values of that person who's going to make the decision to work with
Right.
you, then you're able to shift and adjust your presentation style. Because if you're working with someone who's more knowledge based or
Mm-hmm.
blueprint based or action, you have to figure out where are they
You
coming,
have to be able to adapt.
because
Yeah.
then you can shift the information. You don't want to give graphs and figures and facts and numbers to someone who is a much more community nurturing action person.
Right.
They just want to know, how is this going to help me, my business, the
Yep.
team, and the community, and how quickly can we get it done? But if they're more knowledge and blueprint based, they're going to want to know, what are all the steps we need to take to
Yeah.
do it? What's all the science in the
They're going to
background?
want more of a
What's all the
logical look at it. Yeah.
technology? Yeah. So you need to know how to present, because that is how you get more yeses, not by meeting more people. It's by learning to read the people and shift your presentation once you have that first appointment.
Yeah. And
That's
I find with sales, and I've only done a little, I mean, I've done some sales, but not a lot. I don't consider myself the best salesman in the world, but I will say I've always found that my best success is just in the personal conversation and communication. I've never been one to be able to set up a whole demonstration, and I could never be one of these guys sitting at Sam's Club trying to sell you a product. I wouldn't be that guy. But I could definitely talk about a product and promote it that way and have a good communication of what I like and don't like about it. And I'm probably better that way of a salesman than I am if I was trying to do some kind of demonstration for somebody. I'd probably screw that all up. But I think that it is key communication, and like you just said, what you touched on is communication, but also reading the cues, body language, understanding somebody's personality. And a lot of people are like, well, I just don't know the person. You can read people I'm pretty good at it. My wife kind of is like, sometimes looks at me like I'm psychic or something, because I can almost meet somebody and within a few moments I can tell you if they have a good nature, bad nature, if the person's shady. I've always kind of been that way. And so I think like you just said, you can kind of read cues from people, if they're interested, if they're not interested, if they're logical and have to be very, with to the point of, like you said, prints or numbers and schematics, and or if they're just a person that's very organic and just like, well, tell me how this helps us, and what's it going to do for my business, and they're just more of that type of thinker, analytical or maybe critical. So yeah, that's very interesting because I find myself more than not, surprise being a host of a show interviewing guests. I find I can read cues pretty well.
Mhm.
And I do think body language plays a big part of it. I don't think we, a lot of people still maybe don't understand that we're humans,
Mhm.
and being human, we put off signals. And unfortunately, you got to read them. You got to know.
Yeah.
To put it very simple, I mean, just like animals, dogs, and they have behaviors, they have ways they act that tells another one to stay away, or come near. And so it's
Mhm.
kind of one of the same things. I mean, there's a lot of people you meet in public, and you could see on their face like, get away from me. And then if you read the cue, to get away. And if not, there's an interaction that tends to blow up sometimes and doesn't work out very well. You rub each other raw. And so that's kind of one of those things, you touched on that makes sense to me. Read the cues, kind of feel out who you're talking to. Also, I think one of the things that came to mind when you were talking about that is I've come into contact with people where I'm coming to talk to them about a deal or an investment. And I'm like, they're not in a very good mood.
Mhm.
Or you walk into the room and it's just like, whoa, I can feel the tension in here.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's not the best time to present. Sometimes that's a good cue to know, like, this guy's not buying into anything today.
Well, and the good news is that this is, some people are really are born with it, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of get that gift. But even if you are, so for example, even if you were born with a singing capability, right? You still want to go to a coach and have that honed. And there's
Mm-hmm.
some things you can learn about that skill and that gift you've been giving. But even if you if you feel like you never have a clue what anyone's thinking and you just aren't naturally good at reading people, the good news is this is a learned skill. So there's a
Yeah.
technique and a process in learning it, as well as nowadays, coupled with that, an artificial intelligence. So a
Yeah.
tool and a software that goes with that to gives you support to help you figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to communicate, how to alter your presentation, and things like that. And I'm certified in some of that technology and in the intelligence. As a matter of fact, it's 6 intelligences that we cover in a 12-week course. That's a program that's available. And I just got asked to do it for Microsoft's leadership team. So um, it's definitely something that is beneficial for both your family, your business, growing your business, but even just inter-business
Mm-hmm.
interaction, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that we're doing this training with Microsoft's team, is really it'll help them in their home life and their business, especially from the work from home standpoint
Mm-hmm.
and communication within the family, but also within through the team members and in between interacting with other coworkers. So whether you're trying to grow your business and present to a prospect, or just interact with your staff and your team
Yeah.
better, or even your family better, these intelligences help because they cover emotional, spiritual, personality, sales, business, and artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to cover this whole gamut of the whole person, because the whole
Right.
person is in all of these places. You don't go to
Mm-hmm.
work and leave your spiritual and your emotional at home.
Yeah.
That comes to work with you,
And
whether
I think it's important to understand each person, like you said, that person's coming to work is the same person that's going home. But in different situations, us as humans, we react different ways.
Mhm.
When we're under pressure or there's a deadline, some people
Mhm.
handle that really well. I'm one of them. I'm one of those people. My wife yells at me all the time. I can go literally right to the finish line, and I could finish out a complete house remodel. And she's going, holy crap, why do you put that on you? And I'll do it. Like, I'll be down to like 2-3 days and I'll finish out a house remodel. And she's like, holy crap, that's weird that you even put the stress on yourself. But when I could have done it a week before, but I opened my schedule up for something else. And
Mhm.
so I'm one of those people, like, while I try not to do it, I'm one that works very well under pressure. I stress out, I get a little bugged out, and then I set a plan. And as soon as that plan's in motion, I complete it. I've never missed a deadline. I love it.
Mhm.
And then I think it's just the nature of who I am. I'm one of those real adrenaline type people. I always was when I was younger. And I think that's part of it, is like, I can push myself to the deadline and I know I'll get it done. But like you said, different people, but they're the same people, but under different pressure, some people perform better. And like you said, knowing those 6 things, knowing how to interact within a company, even with your clients outside of the company, is a really good thing. And I'm going to show my age here. I worked for a company that was a affiliate of AOL back in the day. And now we're talking back in the day. And that's kind of what they did, is they had meetings where they kind of taught some of the employees new skills and coping skills. And then they enforced that you use them throughout the day. And it was kind of a neat thing they did, because, throughout the company, you were supposed to use these new skills. And sometimes it was really silly. We'd all make fun of it because it was like how to be nice and how to communicate and be friendly with someone you don't really care for or whatever. So you'd be walking around. It was always like, hey, how's your day? And there was a whole day you had to like kind of fake like you were a nice person, even if you were having a bad day. But slowly, like, it did change the environment of the workspace where everybody, and this was a place that employed, I mean, we had over 500 plus people on 3 different shifts. And so it would like, it was a very diverse place. So you were dealing with people from all different backgrounds. And so it was really kind of weird. And they'd have these meetings and you're sitting in there with people that absolutely want nothing to do with this. And then you have people that are like trying to learn this for their career. And then as soon as it was like meeting over, break, and everybody break, and then everybody has to act a certain way or do a certain thing. And that's what you're producing that day. And it was really a neat experience. But you did learn, like, some people just don't function a certain way under certain pressure or stress.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's important to have. So, yeah, I was excited to have the opportunity to add that to my certifications last year. I'm always adding and improving, doing
I
something.
think you have to. I mean, to be successful, I hear a lot of people, even old school, mom and pop places that are still brick and mortar, they make a few changes every decade, but you're like, if you guys just made little changes more often, it would probably help your dynamic. And it is interesting to me that we people forget, we're humans, we're able to reason, we're able to adapt. Our whole nature is about evolving. That's what we are. We evolve from young little hoodlums up to being adults and maturing, and then having to deal
Go
with
back
life.
to little hoodlums
And then we
again.
go back to senior citizen hoodlums again, harassing our family at an old age.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's one of those, like, I just find it really interesting when I see people struggling, and I'm like, all you need to do is kind of make a shift or learn a new tool or coping mechanism for certain things. And it's available. That's the thing, I think, is more than ever, we have this technology, we have the internet, we have all these amazing tools at our fingertips, our phones. I mean, these things are, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the fly and my phone has saved my butt on something, answering a question for a client or looking up or researching something. It's just one of those things, like, you have to always improve. You always have to, like, new certifications. I don't think there's ever, I've been in construction. That's one of the businesses I've been in for 27 years. I hate
My
it.
husband's the licensed general contractor.
I'm a general contractor, and I own a business here, and I call it my 7-year itch. I have a background in computer engineering. That's what I went to school for. I owned a computer repair business for many years. I got sick of it. I get this thing I call the 7-year itch, where I'm in something and I get tired of it after about 6 to 7 years, and then I totally pivot off to something else. And construction has been the one thing in 27 years of my life that I always pivot back to, because I find I do enjoy working with my hands. And as much as I'm
on the before and after too. You
you
get the destruction and the transformation and then the wow. I think it's why we all watch HGTV.
Oh, my wife loves it. My wife, and I do too. I really love it. But then I go through, even like right now is a prime example. She'll go in there and she wants to watch HGTV, and she'll turn it on in the evening when we finally get to sit down and enjoy some time together and watch TV. She'll turn on some HGTV, and I've had a day at work, doing construction. I don't even want to see a hammer or a tool or anything. And I'm like, I'm just kind of sitting there like, oh, do we have to again? But it's, I find, and I'm at that moment now. I'm at a pivot point right now, again, in construction, where I find that I lose passion in something, and I know myself. And so when I lose the passion for something, it's time for me to change. Or it's time for me to educate myself to a next level of what I'm doing. And so over the years, that's what I've done. I started off obviously just in labor at a very young age with my dad. My dad was the type of person, you got off school, he would make sure your homework was done, drop you at a job site with his friend, and you would work till about 9 o'clock at night. And then he'd come pick you up, bring you home, you'd shower, go back to school and do it all over again the next day. My dad did not, you had to work to be in his house. And so from a very young age, that's just all I knew. So I was able to, I was blessed to learn trades at a very young age the right way through guys that didn't play around. They were there to work. And so that work ethic, plus my dad just having a very strong work ethic, kind of built up to where I'm kind of the way I am. And so I reach a point where I'm like, I can grow, with construction the past 6 years, since I've been in here in Tulsa for 6 years, building up the business here. And I built this construction company from the ground up. We've had no issues. We've met every deadline. I don't think we've ever had a client complaint or not pay or anything. We've just really been successful at building this one here. And part of it I really do lean toward is the education. Since I've been here, I've re-educated every year. I do more education classes and online courses to keep up with the industry. Because right now, construction, due to technology, construction is changing so drastically. We're not back in the day of it's all hammer and drills and sledgehammers. There is so much technology, lasers, and different stuff that really makes construction something you have to keep up with these days. And after 27 years of doing it, I mean, I could probably build you a house with my eyes closed with hand tools. But these guys these days are doing engineering and measuring and all the things to set up a house with nothing but technology. I mean, there's still physical work, but it's just amazing. So I continue to do that, improve, get myself recertified for certain things. And I do it in everything, journalism, I do it for journalism. I'm always trying to keep up with the latest trends in journalism, which right now it's horrible that the trends in journalism really aren't good. But I try my best to keep up with that. But I do find that like every 7 years, I kind of get this little itch where I'm like, I'm not passionate about this anymore. And then I either want to change careers and move to something different, or I will start something else at the same time. And then I just add to my workload because I guess I becomes less passionate, but also bored. And so it's like, this isn't enough of a challenge for me. I need more. And I'm wired that way. I'm that guy that has to have information. I'm like a short circuit. I have to have more input. Right. And so that's kind of what I do too, is sometimes I do get bored and I'm like, I need more stuff to do.
Yeah, I've definitely, so I'm already adding a 60-hour course certification that I'm starting now for this year. So I've already got started.
Start the year off right.
I'm going into another one.
Start the year off right. Yeah, and so it's just one of those. I think we all in business or marketing, wherever, sales, whatever it is, I mean, I think you would agree, you have to adapt. You always have to educate. There's never a point as a human, let alone as a business or entrepreneur, there's never a point as even a business owner that you've learned enough. It's never a point where you can say, well, the business is running smooth, it's time to kick back in my nice office chair. No, if that's where you're at, then you're set up for failure.
Yeah, well, I think it is a good thing to begin to put the business on autopilot so that you can just check in with it and sit on the beach at some point. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you just got to make sure all the pieces are in place in order to do so. There's a lot of people, they get to that point where they do autopilot a business, and if they're not checking in on it or keeping up on the processes being ran or who's running what,
right,
it can just go downhill overnight. I mean, it can. I've seen businesses crash.
The key is getting really good people to run for you.
Yep. It's partnering and surrounding yourself with good people for sure, and employing good people. So tell us a little bit more. I know we're getting a little shorter on time, but tell me a little bit more about some of the consulting you do, maybe some of the classes you teach, some of the speaking you do. Tell the audience a little bit about that, and maybe also some information where they can find those.
Yeah, so my website's the easiest place to find me, that and LinkedIn, and it's jessicalkoch.com. And we do sales and marketing, LinkedIn and social media training. I have LinkedIn classes. I have speaker courses where I help other speakers get more speaking engagements, because I've been doing it for 25 years throughout the country in your traditional associations, government entities, and trade shows and places like that. And then recently, in the last couple of years, I've also been speaking internationally and doing, I mean, I did quite a bit of the virtual speaking before. It was, it was probably, I don't know, 60/40. So it's probably more
Mm-hmm.
60% of the time I was traveling, and I was really developing about 40% of the time where I was teaching for these memberships and associations for their member benefits in their educational portals. So we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
just beginning the technology of webinars and
Yeah.
things like that. And so it was new when I started doing it. And now it's, in the last 5 months, I've been a speaker on at least 30 different virtual summits. So,
Yeah. Right. That's
and
huge.
well, when I think that's also how I catapulted into having clients in 6 different countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because you get this opportunity that even though it's a virtual summit, it's still who organized the summit. So I spoke for
Right.
a conference organized out of Norway. I do a ton out of Canada and Australia and London. And so even though anyone in the world can attend them, the concentration of people who attended are still wherever the person is physically located. So I find it kind of fascinating
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
and engaging in that. So yeah, I'm just having a blast. So if someone needs to get more things done with their sales team, then we have a program for that with the virtual assistant membership. If they're looking to save money and have an audit done, it's no result, no fee for their business expenses. We have a program for that. So we do a lot of sales growth and cost savings. The whole idea is grow your profits from seed to orchard, sell
Mm-hmm.
more, spend less. And so those are the kinds of things between outsourcing work and having expenses reviewed and having your sales growth occur and learning about LinkedIn and leveraging social media or learning about how to get on more stages.
Yeah.
All of these things grow your sales or save you money.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Just some of the techniques you've talked about today
and
for sure will save time.
Right. And that is the umbrella of the service of our consulting. So that is
Very cool.
where we come from. And it's been my pleasure to be a guest and to learn more even about you, Dean, and your followers. And so
For
I'm
sure.
really just happy to be here.
For sure. And what we typically do, and I kind of explain this to every guest, is what we like to do is have somebody on for the first time, let the audience get to know them, and then in the future we would have you on again to kind of expand on where you're at that time, and kind of bring some new knowledge, some new stuff to the audience. So we always try to tell the guests that you're not just this isn't just your first time and only time on the show. We expect to have you back. It's a goal of ours to always get each guest back to touch base. It's Two Party Podcast is not just a podcast, it's a talk show. And we really encourage our guests to come back in the future. And the other thing we do is we tell all of our guests up front that if there's something new that happens in your life or your business and you want to promote, you reach out to us. You obviously have all my contacts. So what we do is, say a new book, you're talking about maybe working on a new book coming out. And if that's in the works and that book's ready to be released, you contact us and you say, hey, Dean, Two Party Podcast, we would like to promote this and we'd like to give you an opportunity to have us back on and we'd like to get this book promoted. And that's what we want to do. It's not just about, at the end of the day, it's promoting our guests to our audience, for our audience. If the show continues to get the success and gain the traction it's gained, that's great. But our goal is really to get our guests presented to the world and presented to the audiences where they can be an impact. And that's really it. I mean, so at the end of the day, we hope to have you back for sure. I do want to touch on one more thing that we haven't really touched a lot on, but I ask every guest
Okay.
because it is part of our platform. What is something that you can, just maybe a time where you've been working as a professional, maybe you've had a hard time, obviously being a mother of 7 kids, you've definitely seen some roller coasters, I know.
Yeah.
So let's offer the audience maybe something that helped you get through a tough time in your life, or maybe a period where maybe you were struggling and maybe just not feeling yourself, depression, anxiety, stress, any of that. Maybe just give some advice on what has helped you get through and still be able to function professionally.
So I've definitely faced those times. I think we all have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think two key things come to mind. Very first and foremost, by myself and with myself, if I'm struggling internally, I pull on what I call a gratitude ladder. And sometimes it feels like you're in this dark hole, and your mind can go into that space. And the only way I know out is to start. I mean, it sounds so silly and cliche, but start really counting my blessings. And each one of those is a rung on the ladder, and I can see and feel myself lifting.
Yeah.
And that meditation and that visualization of going through those things I'm grateful for that I can hang on to help pull me out and get me to the top. So the gratitude ladder and an accountability partner, someone I really trust. I talk to someone every single Friday without fail, and we have an accountability recap call of our day and our week and our life. And it's both for our business, but also for ourselves personally, things that we're personally trying to achieve. And I think that can be really a godsend, because sometimes just saying out loud what we felt like was so hard and so challenging, and where we are with it now, makes you realize, okay, I can get through this. It's not as bad as it felt when I wasn't talking about it and verbalizing it and having to process it in a conversation. And I think that really makes a huge difference in helping you move forward.
Yeah, I would agree. That's two awesome points, and I think that's one I've touched on before. Is you've always got to remind yourself of the blessings you have and the things to be grateful for. And I think that's something we kind of should inventory daily or weekly for sure, and just always recognize where, as you stated, when things aren't always that way. We got to recognize that in that moment, that isn't always going to be that moment. That down feeling, that maybe something that's just really putting pressure on you, it's going to go away. It always does. And for some people, it's harder. For others, it's a little easier. But I think that's real important. And I think 100%, and I've been pushing that a lot, accountability partner, somebody you have in your life. And I have a lot of friends from my background, which is kind of crazy. And some of my old friends that are still crazy and still in that weird world that they won't get out of. They're still in high school, is what I call it. The guys that are 45 years old and they're still acting like they're in high school, or girls. And so accountability partner, you're right. I have friends that don't have any family. They've ostracized themselves or done things that damaged relationships with friends. So they don't have anybody. And they're like, well, how am I supposed to have an accountability partner because nobody likes me? And that's just part of their little circle of dysfunction. But at the end of the day, you got to find somebody. Everybody has to know somebody that you interact with throughout the day. Doesn't matter if it's an employee, doesn't matter if it's a friend, doesn't matter if it's the guy at the convenience store, somebody you can just talk to. Just somebody who you can set up as an accountability partner that you check in with. And I think that's important. I think it's healthy. Because it's almost like telling on yourself. It's almost like going and tattletaling on your own emotions and behaviors. And everybody should have someone they can trust to do that.
Well, and I think the most important formula, though, and the recipe in that accountability is making a commitment to it and having it on the calendar every single Friday, 9:00. It's on my schedule for life. Like it's as far out as Google Calendar will let me book it. And we keep that commitment to one another, and we get on the phone and we book and schedule our lives around that committed time. And when you do that, it makes it more powerful, because I have friends, we all have friends, somebody we could call if we needed someone, but that's not the same as having it on your calendar.
Consistency.
It's an hour-long appointment we keep. We cover 30 minutes for her and 30 minutes for me. And we typically try to say, okay, what are the 3 things we're going to tackle next week? What are the 3 things, 1 to 3 things we have to point out that we're going to try to achieve. And they can be, again, for personal, or they can be for business. But, we need to, helps us pull some clarity. And that consistency is super powerful.
And sometimes when we're in these moments, we just need that outside perspective. Sometimes, everybody gets in their own head and their own emotions and their own thoughts. And sometimes it puts blinders on to where you just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel until somebody brings a little perspective or a third party insight into it. And I really think that that's important. That's key. Sometimes our minds can lie to us. Sometimes our minds can trick us into believing that something is so real and yet it's not as real as we want to believe it is. And so it's important that we have somebody that can tell us, look, that's just not as stationary as it has to be in your life. But the other point you just made, I love too, is it's not just about expressing and talking about what was on your mind and what you were feeling, but it's also about the positive of pushing forward. So you have to also set goals with that accountability partner, and also with yourself, whether it's a lot of people, successful people make lists, calendars, whiteboards. You can't see, I got a whiteboard here and a whiteboard over here. There's things, you got to visualize things. And sometimes it's not just visualize, but verbalize. And so sometimes, like you said, just 3 things, even naming 3 things for next week I want to accomplish is a great goal. And it's a great thing to do each day or each week to speak to somebody about. So yeah, those are great. Those are great key points. Jessica, it's been great having you on here. Like I said, we will have you on in the future again, and I wish you all the success. If there's anything else that comes up, you let us know.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much for having me, Dean.
Perfect. And you have a great day.
You too.